Hello, everyone, and welcome to Week 5 of the NFL season. Unfortunately, because it's Week 5, that means that I am out of my beers from the Vikings Brewing Company. It's a bittersweet day. I'm happy that I made it this far and that people are still watching these ridiculous videos. But it's sad because today we have our last beer. However, my wife's Uncle Brad sent me a very special beverage that I cannot wait to try, which means, for better or for worse, we will have a Week 6 video. This week, the Vikings are facing the team that knocked them out of the NFC Championship game, the Philadelphia Eagles. When I was looking at the Vikings schedule and lining up beers for this week, I thought I might need something a little extra. That game still haunts me, and I'm just terrified of seeing it happen all over again. So, I set aside the Viking Stärker, which means strong. It's a strong Icelandic beer, Kraftmikil Lagerbier. I didn't pick this beer because of the can or anything. Obviously, it doesn't look like anything the Eagles would wear, but it is very neat. Had I been able to see the future, I probably would have busted this one out for the Bills game, because that one, if there was a game the Vikings have played this year, that was the one that needs the strong beer. The Viking Stärker is popular because it's got kind of a sweet barley malty taste, despite the high alcohol content, which is 7% alcohol by volume. Thank you, Viking. Let's crack it open. Now, I know Viking primarily produces lagers, and as I mentioned before, I don't know a lot about beer, but when I saw the can and read the description of it, I thought it would be a darker color, closer to a, I don't know, not a stout, but something darker. But it's actually, again, it's very pale. Definitely a rich, the color doesn't, the lighting in here doesn't do it justice. This makes it look a lot more washed out, but it's actually like a really nice honey color. That's very nice. Okay, let's try it out. Oh, this is my favorite one yet. I really thought the classic or the Viking Lager would take the cake, but this is excellent. Oh, I might need a minute. This is great. Mm. Yeah, it's sweet. I would say I was looking up adjectives for how to describe beers. I would call it savory. It's got a very full flavor, but it's not like just getting punched in the face with hops. It's there, but it's so much smoother. This is great. I will make it my mission to find more of these in my lifetime. Oh. Okay. Pump the brakes and start talking about the game. I'm going to try to go a little off script to make this a little faster. The Vikings are coming into this week at 1-2-1, and the Eagles are 2-2. They did have to start the season without their starting quarterback, Carson Wentz, who's back and has had a chance to shake off the rust now. But both teams are really, really looking for a win. The Eagles are looking to get back on track and resume their title defense, where the Vikings, really, really got embarrassed in the championship game last year and are looking to amend their mistakes. That could be difficult because, as I mentioned last week, I believe the offensive coordinators and coaching staffs and head coaches have started to find a way to exploit Mike Zimmer's defense. That was obvious in the championship game last year, but it was started before then. Looking back several weeks into last season and starting into this season, their statistics that they're allowing offenses to put up on them would make them like the bottom in the league in a lot of areas, which is not what we expect from, the vaunted purple people eaters. So I said I was concerned about that because Sean McVay and his coaching staff have proven to be very good at getting mismatches in coverage. They find ways to bring in a personnel package, and then the Vikings send in their package to match, but then the way the Rams move their players around, they get matchups with wide receivers on linebackers, which is a bad story. Sean McVay is really cutting edge. He and his coaching staff have found a lot of ways to exploit opposition defenses. Doug Peterson and his coaching staff did it first on a very big stage last year. Now, Filippo, who was the quarterback's coach and is now the Vikings offensive coordinator, and they lost their offensive coordinator, Frank Reich, who's now the Colts head coach. But I still think they will, after having 7 days to look at, or 10 days, to look at what the Rams did to get their mismatches on the Vikings, I think Doug Peterson and the Eagles staff will find a way to do very similar things, especially with their, Pro Bowl, All-Pro tight end Zach Ertz and the up-and-coming rookie tight end Dallas Goedert. If you recall, weeks 1 through 3, the Vikings were hemorrhaging yards to tight ends and dump-off passes to running backs, which meant something was going wrong in the secondary, allowing these wide-open passes. Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert could have a crazy game this week. On offense, Kirk Cousins currently has the 3rd highest yards in the league, and the Vikings are passing the most of any team in a neutral game script, which means that when the game's close, usually within 1 score, when you're not needing to pass like crazy to catch up or run like crazy to try to control the clock and bleed the time off, and when in a neutral game script, the Vikings are passing at the highest amount of anybody in the league, 70% of the time. That's interesting because the Eagles, going back to last year, have a great run defense, and a lot of the attack is through the air against the Eagles. And in fact, I think their teams are attacking the Eagles the most through the air of any team in the league. So really, we should expect to see the Vikings just throwing all over the place. Last week, it felt like they rolled Cousins out of the pocket quite a bit on bootlegs. Just thinking back to like the scoring plays and the big plays, it came when they did a play action and then rolled Cousins out of the pocket to throw downfield, get him away from that sieve of an offensive line. If they keep doing that this week, I think they'll find success against the Eagles secondary. Talented, but not great, and they lost their safety. I forget his name now. But they might have a good chance at getting lots of points on the board through the air. Unfortunately, I think the Eagles have that same chance against the Vikings this week. I don't think the Vikings, even with their 10 days between the LA game and now, I don't think they will have fixed all of their problems, especially against a team that won the Super Bowl last year without their starting quarterback, Carson Wentz. With Wentz back and with all that time to prepare for the Vikings and on the road, again, I think the Eagles get it done here in a high-scoring game, like the Rams game. If this game were in Minnesota, I would definitely pick the Vikings. Not saying the Eagles are terrible, but just I think it's that close of a game, and having the home field advantage would make a difference. Hopefully I'm wrong. I do certainly see a way in which the Vikings defense plays better. How could they play any worse? And the Vikings offense continues its pace and, beats the Eagles at home, steals one on the road. That would be great. It's a tough call to make. Let's just hope that the Philadelphia D-line does not get another strip sack from Cousins, because it's getting rough at this point. I want to take an opportunity to once again thank Viking Brewhouse for their 5 fine beers from the top of the world. It makes me miss Iceland every time I crack one open, and I can't wait to go back. I want to thank all of you for watching these stupid videos. It means the world to me, and it makes it more fun every week. I'll see you next week with that special surprise brew from Uncle Brad. Until then, skål för det. Go Vikings.